It started on a quiet Sunday afternoon when my parents invited me over for dinner. I thought it was just a normal family gathering with food, laughter, and maybe some awkward small talk. When I walked in, my sister Lisa was already there with her husband and 3 kids running around. The table was set, but the atmosphere felt heavier than usual, like something was brewing beneath the surface. I sat down, greeted everyone, and tried to ignore the strange looks being exchanged between my parents and Lisa. After a few minutes of small talk, my dad suddenly cleared his throat loudly. He leaned forward, eyes sharp and voice booming, as he said we had a family vote. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, unsure of what he meant by a vote. Lisa smirked while my mom avoided eye contact, fidgeting with her napkin. Then my dad continued, "Since you don't have kids, it's only fair you help pay for your sister's kids." The room went silent except for the laughter of Lisa's children in the background. I stared at him in disbelief, thinking it was some kind of cruel joke. But his face was dead serious, his jaw clenched as he glared at me for an answer. I asked why I was suddenly responsible for raising children that weren't mine. My dad slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "Because family comes first and you have money." My stomach dropped, realizing this had been planned long before I even arrived. Lisa chimed in smugly, saying, "It's not like you need all that money just sitting there." Her husband nodded, adding, "You're single and child-free, you should contribute where it matters." I looked around the table, searching for even a glimmer of support. But my mom just sighed and muttered, "It's already been decided, your father's right." I pushed back my chair, unable to stay seated as anger surged through me. I reminded them of the years I had worked 2 jobs to build a stable life. I reminded them how I sacrificed vacations, weekends, and sleep to climb my career ladder. Lisa, on the other hand, had dropped out of college, spent recklessly, and expected bailouts every time. Now they wanted me to bankroll her children's future simply because I had been responsible. The unfairness of it made my chest tighten, but my dad only grew louder. He shouted, "We voted you don't have kids, so you pay for your sister's kids, end of discussion." The words rang in my ears like a hammer striking metal. I realized in that moment they never saw me as a daughter or sister, but as a wallet. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice, as I asked, "When did this vote happen?" Lisa laughed and said, "Last week, while you were busy working like always." The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. My own family had excluded me and decided my future. My dad stood up, towering over me, demanding I start transferring money by next month. He said Lisa's kids need braces, tuition, and activities, and I would cover it all. I clenched my fists, knowing this was my breaking point. I told them firmly that I owed them nothing, that their so-called vote meant absolutely nothing. My dad's face turned red with rage as he screamed, "You are selfish and ungrateful." Lisa shouted, "You'll regret this when you're old and alone with no one to care for you." My mom whispered, "Please don't make this harder, just agree to help your sister." But something inside me snapped. Years of being overlooked, taken for granted, and dismissed erupted. I pulled the envelope from my purse and tossed it onto the table. They stared as I explained it was paperwork proving I had already updated my will. Every cent I owned was going to charity, not to them, not to Lisa, not to her kids. Their faces drained of color as I told them they would never see a dime of my hard-earned money. I walked to the door, ignoring their shouts, their insults, their desperate calls to stop. Lisa screamed, "You can't do this, we're family." But I turned back one last time and said family doesn't vote to enslave one of their own. Then I walked out, leaving them all stunned, silent, and furious. Later that night, my phone blew up with dozens of messages from my parents and Lisa. They called me heartless, cruel, even evil for refusing to support them. But I never replied. Instead, I blocked their numbers one by one. For the first time in years, I felt free from their expectations and manipulations. The so-called family vote had backfired in the worst possible way. They thought they could trap me with guilt, but instead they lost me entirely. Months later, a cousin reached out, telling me my dad still rants about that night. He tells anyone who will listen how ungrateful I am, but deep down he knows the truth. The truth is I chose myself for once and refused to be their sacrifice. And though I lost a family that night, I gained something far more valuable. I gained peace, independence, and the knowledge that my life belongs only to me.